Who can tell me? I know that some of you will know the answer to this, right? The feeding of the 5,000, what is special about it? There's something special about the feeding of the 5,000 in the Bible that is only true of the resurrection also. Anyone know what it is? I'm sure you'll know. If I tell you, you think, oh yeah, I did know that. It's the only miracle that appears in every gospel, apart from the resurrection. Okay? And that suggests there's some significance about the feeding of the 5,000. Okay? And so I thought, let's have a look at that. And as we look at it, I'm thinking also about exactly the things we've been talking about. Because the things that we've been talking about, as I said, it's like about giving ourselves, isn't it? And that's demanding. Yeah? And we feel tired sometimes. We feel like we can't do it anymore. Well, this is a great passage for us to look at. So it begins, and we can miss some of this stuff. This is... Let me just get the verse. So the first bit, the apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all that they had done and taught. Okay? They had been out on mission. Okay? Giving themselves, and that they come back, they've been casting out demons and healing the sick. They come back full of excitement and they report back to Jesus everything that's been done. So get the picture. They've been out, working, ministering. They've walked miles, okay? So they're full of adrenaline and excitement, but probably a bit tired as well. And then the next thing that we read is this. Then, because so many people were coming and going, they did not even have a chance to eat. He said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So they've been out on mission, and then they come back, but the crowds are still coming. There's so much coming and going that they don't even get a chance to eat. So they're hungry. All right? So there's the story so far. So this is like the end of a long, hard, busy day of ministry. Emotionally, mentally, physically exhausting. They're drained. The next part of the story. Look at what they say. So Jesus says, he says, then because people were coming and going, so many people were coming and going, they did not even get a chance to eat. He said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So you can imagine now, it's like, okay, we're drawing a line now. We can go somewhere, we're just going to chill out with Jesus, have something to eat, rest, kick back. And it is a well-earned rest, okay? We all know that feeling, don't we? We feel like we need that. So that's what Jesus says. He said, come on, let's go and do this, okay? And that's Jesus' intention at the time. And then we read, so they went by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. You can imagine them thinking, oh, this is going to be so nice. Just chill out. To a solitary place. But, and the word but, it always changes things, doesn't it? But many who saw them leave and recognised them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. So there they are, they're on their way. They're thinking this is going to be nice, we're going to get there, we're going to chill out. Not realising that the crowds have worked out where they're going. So when they get there, they see all these people. It tells us Jesus saw them and had compassion. What do you think the disciples were feeling at that moment? Hey? You can imagine, can't you? Their hearts sinking. Oh, I've had enough. I'm spent. I can't do this anymore. And it says Jesus had compassion on them. His compassion never ends. Okay, he saw them not as the disciples saw them. Okay, when the disciples were spent, Jesus looked with compassion upon them. See, he's different to us, isn't he? And he doesn't run out of compassion. He needed rest, but he saw the need. Verse 35. So at the end of verse 34, so Jesus begins teaching them many things. It launches a whole new phase of ministry. By this time, it was late in the day. So his disciples came to him. This is a remote place, they said. The subtext, we should be here on our own. This is a remote place, they said. And it's already very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. Yeah, again, the subtext is, I reckon, they're starving by now. They think, he's been teaching for ages. How much longer? Maybe you get that feeling sometimes on a Sunday morning. How much longer is this going to go on for? And then they come up with an idea. Jesus, it's unreasonable now. It's unreasonable. It's really late. They're probably really hungry. Subtext, we're starving. Send them away to go and get something to eat. So they're hoping that Jesus is going to bite on this and be reasonable. Yeah, you're right, it's really late. They're going to be flagging if they don't eat soon. Off that, yeah, we should draw a line now. And then, so that's what they're hoping for. They've already been let down by once, and they'll feel that. Verse 37, but he answered, you give them something to eat. Again. So they're spent, they've gone the extra mile, they're waiting for Jesus to finish, they've got this great idea, send them home because we're exhausted, and Jesus says, no, now I want you to go and minister to these people. I want you to serve them. Do you ever feel like God's a bit of a taskmaster? I don't know if you ever feel like that. Maybe you do. Maybe you feel like you've gone as far as you can with things and you just can't do it anymore. But the demand is there, and it's like, I've got no more left in the tank. I've been on empty now for quite a while already, and I just can't do it anymore. And then Jesus says, now I want you to go and do this. It's like, Lord, what kind of a slave master are you? It can feel like that sometimes. It feels like Jesus wants to make too many demands of us. It can feel like serving Jesus is too consuming. It wears us out. It makes us tired. And here's the problem. If we want to, we don't want that, do we? What we want is to enjoy life, don't we? That's what we want. We want to enjoy life. We don't want to be tired. You know what it's like being tired. Some of you may be tired and ratty this morning. I'm a bit tired. But it's like we want to have a rest. Okay? But Jesus says, no, I've got more for you. For us as a church, I know that we can feel like that. We've been going. And it's like, as we're looking ahead, and I'm saying, why don't we do some of these things? And you might be thinking, are you kidding? Are you kidding me? I haven't got time. I haven't got energy. That would be really demanding on my energy. How can we sustain that? It's too much. Maybe it is. Maybe it's too much. That's why we need to talk and pray. But let's not just assume it's too much. You know what? He says, you give them something to eat. Okay? Jesus isn't going to do it for them. He wants them to do it, to give themselves again. So hard to do, to give yourself again. Okay, but that's what he's saying, isn't it, to them? And so, he says, see what you've got. What have you got? See, they're thinking, we can't feed them. That's 8 months' wages. It's like, we haven't got 20 grand. That's what they're thinking. We don't have the resources for this. Either the inner resources, they're tired, or the material resources. And but Jesus says, no, you give them something to eat. What have you got? So he says, just bring what you've got. That's all he asks. And so none of the disciples have got anything, but we know from the other stories, there's a little boy, he's got a little bit of food, a few bits and pieces of fish and bread. That's all you got, that's all we've got. That's enough. Yeah, whatever you've got, you bring to the table. And then Jesus, what does he do? You notice, he doesn't say, Lord, multiply this bread. He gives thanks. Okay, he's already trusting in God, that God's going to work here. So he just thanks him. Thanks him for what he's already provided. And then he gives it to the disciples to distribute. And 5,000 men get fed, not counting women and children. Can you imagine, right? The disciples, if they had persuaded Jesus, said, look, Jesus, we're just not doing this. And he could have said, okay, we won't do it, send them away. Can you imagine, right? Who would have lost out in that situation? The disciples or the people that were fed? The people that were fed, they'd have got fed, they'd have gone elsewhere. The disciples, they'd have missed out on that joy. And here's the amazing thing. Jesus didn't do it, they did it, didn't they? He gave it to the disciples distributed it. Okay? And they'd have missed out on that. Can you imagine what it was like when they start distributing the bread and it just keeps multiplying? I bet they'd have started laughing. They'd have been amazed, and everyone else would have been amazed at what was happening. It's like, wow, this is just crazy. And it just keeps on coming, until 5,000 men, probably about 15,000, 20,000 people were fed that day, including women and children. Can you imagine? That's an amazing thing, isn't it? Where does that miracle come? It comes right at the end of an exhausting day of ministry when they were spent. They had nothing left in the tank, but they gave themselves again. They did it. And then, here's the thing. Did you notice? There was bread left over, wasn't there? How many loaves? How many? No, more than 5? 12. 12 basketfuls. How many apostles? 12. You see, Jesus is not a taskmaster or a slave master. When he pushes us to go when we think we haven't got any more, what he's doing is he's saying, no, you're at the end, you've got nothing left in the tank, true. You can't go anymore, true. But this is where I step in. And this is where it gets really good. And if we give up before he steps in, we miss out. And we carry on thinking, we can only do what we can do. And we never get to discover the wonder of what God can do. And the thing is, because he loves us, it's like, when they were multiplying that bread, I guarantee they forgot about their hunger. And then at the end of it, they had a feast. Jesus cared for them as well. He won't shortchange any of us. And so as we think about giving ourselves, living our lives, giving ourselves to one another, giving ourselves for the sake of the lost, giving ourselves for his glory, when we think we've got nothing left in the tank, I want to say this: don't give up. Keep going. And let's see what the Lord will do. He loves to multiply his provision for us. Let's pray. Lord Jesus,